Welcome to Sports Geek Q&A. Here's your host, Sean Callanan.
Yes, I'm Sean Callanan from Sports Geek. Remember, you can send in your questions these ways. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/questions. You can send me one via Twitter at Sean Callanan. You can reach me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, Sean Callanan on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email, sean@sportsgeekhq.com. Any of those methods. And don't forget, you can support our podcasting and newsletter efforts via Patreon. Simply go to sportsgeekhq.com/Patreon to find out how you can support this podcast. Question 1 comes from David via email. He asks, what audiobooks do you recommend? I've actually been listening to a few books recently. I am an Audible subscriber and I do try to read some books, but Audible books and audiobooks are my preference. Some of the ones that I've really loved have been Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the story of Nike. One that I'm halfway through at the minute from Oren Clef, Flip the Script. It's his second book, or I think it's his second book. I've also listened to Pitch Anything. If you're trying to pitch an idea or a business or pitch for funding, both of those books are really good from Oren Clef. Another one that I've listened to, Angela Duckworth, Grit. I really enjoyed that. You can watch Angela's TED Talk on grit. It's really good, so much so that I've made grit one of our values for Gravitas. One book that's actually, I think I have read it and listened to it, is Hatching Twitter by Nick Bilton, I think it is. And it's the backstory. It's the early days of Twitter. So I'd love to see it become a movie. It's got a bit of the social network about it. But if you love Twitter and you remember Twitter in its early days, you would enjoy Hatching Twitter. I'm currently listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger's Total Recall. He does love a name drop, but it is interesting listening to the early days of bodybuilding and Conan Barbarian and the like. So there's some of the books, and yeah, I've really enjoyed those in particular. Second question came via Twitter DM. Tinnis LaRue from FanCam, former podcast guest, and he asked, and I don't know if it's in jest, but I'm going to take it on face value. He asks, who do you think will lose the most money in esports in the next 5 years? Brackets. I know quite a few folks will make a lot of money, but with the new movements, I find it a good thought experiment to delve into the opposite side of that scale. Thank you, Tinnis. That's why I like you as a friend. You're always challenging my opinion, and you're not just challenging. I wasn't just going to leave that out there. And it is a good thought experiment. I'm hoping I'm not one to begin with my own team, Gravitas, and what we're trying to do with SG Esports. But I think the people that will now, a lot of these aren't esports specific answers; they're like startup answers. But I guess the only esports answer would be team only rollouts, saying, "Hey, we're a team. We've got an esports team. We've got esports players. We play esports." Doesn't justify the big valuations, in my opinion. I think they need to find some diversification and find different methods to bring in revenue, not just via sponsors, because it's not that different to a sport in that sense. And they definitely need to leverage more of the digital audience. But more startup advice would be investors not invested. By that I mean investors who are buying into the idea and the buzz around esports, but not really rolling up their sleeves and learning the business and understanding the business and understanding the audiences and the nuances. So I've seen a little bit of that with people buying in and thinking these rivers of gold there without to dive in and understand it. I think also inside the esports and the gaming culture is potentially people who are unwilling to try new things. I don't think the perfect solution and the perfect implementation has been found as yet. But if you're going to stick to your ways and say this is how we've always done it, that's a certain way to lose money and fail. And then the last one, which is, again, smart business practice, is those who don't manage their costs. So we're taking a slightly different tact in 2020 and having a very hard look at our costs to make sure we're not spending, again, business fundamentals, not spending more money than we're bringing in. So keeping those costs under control and tying costs like players and things that we're doing in the space to revenue. I think figuring out that piece and tying revenue that's coming into esports to some of the outgoings will make a lot of sense. I think there's a bit of consolidation across multiple esports. We're seeing it in Overwatch where they're cutting of costs and those kind of things. So we're not just diving in on the buzz. So I think, a bit of business sensibility, I guess. So hopefully that answers your question. I look forward to our next long walk in New York next time we catch up, Tinnis. Last question actually came in real life at Sports Business Melbourne from Ilja. She actually asked, how do you connect with the sports business community in your city? Well, for one, Ilja was already kicking goals by turning up to a meetup. If you're in Melbourne, Sports Business Melbourne will be running one every month. So just simply look up Sports Business Melbourne on meetup.com. So Meetup is a really good space for that. I will put the challenge back out to my good friend Russell Scapetti to see if SB Week is going to fire up again and have meetups around the world. So Meetup is a good way of doing it. I think LinkedIn is probably the primary method these days to connect with sports business executives if you do it in the right manner. I think, if I go back in the day, Twitter would have been a really good way to connect with sports business executives, but more and more I'm seeing less and less, which is unfortunate. I met a lot of really great people, including people like I just mentioned, Russell Scabetti, Tinnis, have both been on the podcast, JW Cannon, Shane Harmon and the like have all been really active on Twitter. They're still out there. If you use the SportsBiz hashtag and you join in the conversation and reply and have conversations around things that are shared. But it's very global, so it's really hard to potentially know where people are. But you can find out where people are by connecting with them. But I'd say probably the best place is LinkedIn. And the thing is, if you're an up-and-comer, please customize the invite, say what you want, why you're connecting, those kind of things. It is a bit of a bugbear for sports executives who do get bombarded. You've got to remember they're getting bombarded on both sides. If you're a sports executive for a team, you're getting bombarded by vendors and consultants trying to pitch you services, and then you're getting bombarded by up-and-coming sports business marketing graduates that want to get a job. So you've got to push yourself a little bit outside that box to be noticed and to make a genuine connection. So that would be my ways for you to connect with your sports business community. And if you don't have a meetup in your town, start one. Because guess what? You put it up there and people turn up. So I've had the Sports Business Melbourne Meetup for 5 years now and intermittently run it on occasion and sometimes consistently, sometimes not, as different things take priority. But this year I'm making a priority to run one every month as it's just a catch up. Let's catch up, talk about the business. And so far we've had a couple. We had one in November. We had one in January. We're going to have another one in February, March. And you know the rest. You know all the other months. If you're in Melbourne, come along. Thanks again for your questions. Remember, you can send them in any time on my social channels or via email, sean@sportsgeekhq.com, or you can go to sportsgeekhq.com/questions. I'd love your support on Patreon. Simply go to sportsgeekhq.com/Patreon to pledge your monthly support. Until next episode, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
You can reach Sean Callanan via email at sean@sportsgeekhq.com. Find out more about Sports Geek's Digital to Dollars process at digitaltodollars.com. Go to sportsgeekhq.com for more sports digital marketing resources.